How can you make a study plan that can help guide you throughout your studying period and get you the score you're looking for? If you're new here, my name is Malki Asad, a plastic surgery resident in the US, and I consistently ranked first in my medical school and I scored over 99 percentile on the USMLE exams. In this video, I will share with you how to create a study plan / study schedule that can help you organize your time and stay focused on the different goals you need to achieve to ace your exams. Now let's assume that you have to create your own study plan and study schedule. You have certain number of books you need to study from, you have certain number of questions you need to solve, and you should leave some time for reviewing. How do you build your own study plan and study schedule? Let's say you have 3 books you need to study from. The first book, let's say it's 100 pages. The second book is 200 pages. And the third book is 300 pages. And all these books are required for that exam. Let's assume your speed of studying for the first book is around 10 pages per day. That means you can finish the first book in 10 days. Let's assume that your speed for the second book is around 20 pages a day, which means you can finish the second book in around 10 days as well. Because sometimes books differ in their complexity, in the amount of time required per page. That's why your speed might be different per book. That's why you need to try when you're making your own study plan and study schedule. You have to try a few pages from each book and see how much time is generally taking you to study each page or each paragraph. For the third book, let's say that your speed is 10 pages a day, which means you need 30 days of studying for the third book. So for the books in general, you need a total of 50 days. So to be able to finish all the books, you need a total of 50 days. But remember, these 50 days are just for the first round, and you have to leave some time for reviewing these materials as well. However, in addition to books, you have to study question banks. And let's say you have a question bank, we'll represent that by QB, that has around 4,000 questions. And you finish around 100 questions per day. So that is a total of 40 days to finish the whole question bank. And let's say in addition to the question banks, you have some assessment tools or prior questions of the exam, and these are around 1,000 questions. These are assessment tools, and you finish around 200 questions a day because these might not have explanation and might not need that much time. So that means you can finish these assessment tools in 5 days. So for both question banks and assessment tools, you need a total of 45 days. And again, these are only for one round of the books and question banks. However, as I said before, it's important to review the information. It's important to review the materials you studied first round. And let's assume that the revision time is half of the actual studying time. That varies a lot based on how good are you with the material, how comfortable are you with the notes that you took, if you took notes, what type of notes you took. But this is just a hypothetical situation that it's around half of the time for reviewing. So if it took 50 days to study the 3 books, let's say plus 25 days for reviewing, and let's say here plus 20 days for reviewing because you might not need to review the assessment tools. So to finish the first round of books, you need around 50 days. So we'll put that here. And to finish the first round of question banks, you need around 45 days. And you need around 5 days for assessment tools. Then for reviewing the books, and we'll represent that with book review, you need around 25 days. And for reviewing the question bank, you need around 20 days. So 50 plus 45 plus 5, that's 100, 125, 145 days for the overall preparation. That's including the first round of books, first round of question banks, assessment tools, and reviewing the books and the question banks. You might need another round of reviewing the books and question banks. That might be shorter, might be the same time. So that's how you structure your study plan before you even start. And that you can definitely change it. For example, let's say that you finish this material, the first book, in 5 days instead of 10 days. That means you have extra 5 days to be using for the second book or the third book or the question bank, or do more questions, another book. let's say you took more time for the first book. So it took you 15 days instead of 10 days. That means you either need to take time from the other books, or you need to extend your exam, or maybe not study a book or decrease certain questions. So you have to adjust your schedule based on the time you need. Another situation you might run in, this 145 days you need to do the one round of books, one round of question banks and assessment tools might not exist for you. You might only have 120 days for the overall preparation. You don't have extra time. You can't extend your exam. So in this case, you have to adjust your studying resources. Maybe you remove this book. Maybe you cut on some questions. Maybe you try to study faster. You have to study more. So instead of studying 8 hours, you study 12 hours. And if you change from 8 to 12 hours, that's almost 50% increase in productivity, because you're adding extra 4 hours, and that's 50% extra productivity. So if you finish here 10 pages, you would be able to finish 15 pages if you study 12 hours. And we have a detailed video on how to study 12 hours a day. So adjusting the hours might be a solution. Cutting on the resources might be a solution. Trying to find where the gaps in your studying, where you're having efficiency problems, and try to adjust that. But I always recommend, if you have to cut on something, don't cut on questions, because these are the most important when preparing for an exam. Now, after all this explanation, let's say we ended up with 145 days of preparation. You need 145 days. So let's say if you start in January, 145 days is around 5 months. So you should be doing your exam on June 1st. However, I always recommend having 10 or 15 days as a backup plan. Let's say you get sick, you needed more time for other resources, something happens, something unexpected happened. I recommend having these 10, maybe 15 days. So if you are able to, if you have that ability to push your exam, I always recommend having 10 days as a buffer. So I would do my exam on June 10th. But I know sometimes students don't have that ability to choose their exam date, and in that case you need to start earlier. So let's say you're supposed to do your exam on May 1st and you need 5 months. So go back in time and see how much time you need. Let's say 5 months in this case, and maybe you start by November 20th or maybe December 1st. So you would predict how much time it requires you to finish these resources. Your exam date is fixed. Let's assume it's fixed. You go back in time and start as early as possible so you can get the materials done in time. Again, unexpected things happen. You might take more time to go through these resources. You might take less time. That's why the study schedule and plan need to be adjusted throughout your preparation. Also, when you're making your study plan and study schedule, I recommend putting the details of what you're trying to study in each day or in each week. For example, if you start studying in January 1st, and we said that the first material would take you 10 days, I write from January 1st to January 10th, I'm gonna study book 1. From January 11th to January 20th, I'm gonna study book 2. And you don't have to have like book 1, then book 2, then book 3, then the question banks. You might have a portion of book 1 plus portion of book 2 plus few questions, and then go the next day, study portion of book 1, portion of book 2, and then few questions at night. So you don't have to study one book, then the other, then the other. Sometimes it might make sense to do that. Book 1 should come before the other, before book 2, because it builds on the information that comes in book 2. And the same for the question banks. You want to solve them after you study the books, but you don't have to do that. It depends on what your preference is and what are the materials included in these books and these question banks. But having a detailed idea of when will you start this material, when will you finish this material, when you will start question banks will help you know as you go on with your studying that I'm late here. I was supposed to finish this. I need to hurry up more. I need to study more so I can catch up on my original plan. Otherwise, I have to push my exam or have to change the exam or cut off some resources. Because what happens is, let's say you take 15 days instead of 10 days. So you finish here on January 15th instead of January 10th. The whole exam will be pushed 5 days. But if you don't have a study plan, study schedule, things might not seem real or might not seem close when you're 5 months far from the exam. You might say, oh, I still have 5 months. But when you start putting things in number,
putting things in exact days and what you will finish in each day, things will look more real, and you'll start appreciating how valuable each day is, even 5 months ahead of the exam. So when you're making your study plan and study schedule, after making this part here, which is how much time does it take to review, how much time does it take to do first round of the material, open the calendar and start plugging in these books and these materials on the calendar. So put a date for book 3, put a date for question banks, put a date for review 1, review 2, review of question banks, review of the books, also days for the assessment tools, and these could come here. For example, you finish B1, B2, B3 question bank and you do one assessment tool. Then you do R1, which is revision 1, and you do another assessment tool, R2, and then you do another or a third assessment tool. So you can disperse the assessment tools between your first round, between first revision, second revision, and again have dates attached to these, so you know as you go on with your studying that you're following this. Do I need to adjust? Do I need to add more resources, decrease resources, push the exam, do the exam earlier? Because in my opinion, that's the only way you can keep track of your progress when you're far away from the exam. Whenever you're preparing for an exam, one of the keys to succeeding in that exam is good preparation. And in order to prepare well, you have to understand how much time you have and how will you invest that time in the different resources available to ace that exam. So that's why it's always recommended to have a study plan or study schedule that guides you with your preparation when you're preparing for an exam.
By the way, if you're a medical student interested in coming to the US and need help with your USMLE exams, we have phenomenal tutors who can help you get the high score you're looking for. We help with study planning, study schedule, study resources, and also subject-specific tutoring to help explain topics to you that might be difficult to understand. We are so confident in our tutors and tutoring service that we can give you your money back if you're not satisfied after the first hour. And you can sign up to our USMLE tutoring service by clicking on the link in the card above or the description below. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you found it helpful in creating your own study plan and study schedule. If you have other ideas that I missed or somebody else might benefit from, make sure to drop it in the comments below. And I would really appreciate it if you found this video helpful, if you can hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your colleagues and friends who can benefit from it as well. Before you leave, make sure to check out the video I recorded on how to study 12 hours a day without burning out. And you can check it by clicking on the link here. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and good luck on your exams. Peace.